Okay, let's face it. The labs you've done in the past haven't been real productive. You may not have learned what you were supposed to learn, and probably your instructor wasn't all that impressed. I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to show you a lab format that we're going to use in class. And if you will use it, you will go through the lab, you'll learn what you need to learn, and your instructor is going to be impressed. So let's get to it. All right, so I have popped up on my screen the Sudoku Lab 1 that we're going to be doing in digital, and I'm going to kind of walk you through it. I want to hit some highlights real quick, and then we'll go back through it. So the procedure that we're going to use, or the method that we're going to use, is we're going to have an introduction, a procedure, an observation, results, and a conclusion section. And when you put these on there, they're going to be in bold, a little bit larger than the rest of the text that follows them. Let me walk you through what's in them. So in the introduction is going to state the purpose of the lab that you're doing or the study that you're doing. I've used the same format for scientific studies. It works out great. It almost forces you to make sure you get all the right data. Anyway, introduction. You need to clearly state the purpose of the lab. Whenever we do this, a lab, there is a problem that we're trying to solve or a lesson that we're trying to learn. And that's what should be in the first part of the lab, the introduction. And typically there's a reason why you're trying to solve it. Let's talk about a drug trial. So they would use the same basic procedure in a drug trial. So the introduction would be, millions of people each year suffer from whatever disease this is. In this drug trial, our purpose is to prove that taking these supplements or this drug will cure 85% of the people. So everything about that drug trial from that point on is trying to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this drug, this supplement, whatever it is, will cure 85% of the people that have this certain problem. For us, you're going to find it's going to be a lot simpler. So our first lab is going to be Sudoku. Sudoku is a word puzzle. Millions of people play it. It gets frustrating when you lose, and there are ways to get better at it and strategies you can use. So our introduction is going to be something similar to that, that millions of people use it. But when we get down to what the lab is actually all about, it's going to be that the game of Sudoku can be won by following 3 basic rules. We will set up the rest of the lab to show that doing these 3 basic rules will make it so you can win Sudoku. So anyway, we start off with the introduction. The next part we're going to get to is the procedure. Now the procedure is actually going to be a step-by-step procedure that you're going to follow that will allow you to use those 3 steps and win the game of Sudoku. We don't care about anything else. You already stated your purpose in the introduction, what we're going to do, and so the procedure is going to be a step-by-step way to do exactly that thing. So your procedure and your introduction have to match as far as the introduction says you're going to do this, your procedure shows how to do that. Next is going to come an observation section. And an observation section is a section where you just put stuff that you learned that weren't actually part of the lab. So for instance, maybe they find out that people who took orange gummies also regrew hair. So that's an observation. So people that took orange gummies, it may have been for they just thought they were great. They love to eat these things. But in this trial, they also found that all the people that were eating this orange gummies were growing hair. That's an observation. It wasn't part of the study, but it's something that they noticed. If you're doing one with a circuit board, maybe you've got a component that gets hot, or that you found that certain kind of solder works better, or certain boards from different manufacturer works better, or something that's not necessarily part of the lab. So that's where you're going to put your observations. You may find out that there are better ways to win at Sudoku than the 3 rules that we use today. And that's what you might put in the observation. All right, so we've got an introduction, we've got a procedure, we've got an observation. We're going to move on to results. Now, results are going to be all the data that you collected while you were doing the lab. And this needs to be thought out ahead of time so that you have a place to collect the correct data. For us, we're going to show that we won Sudoku, and one of the things that we're going to do in this lab is show which numbers we eliminated from being a possibility. So we have to have a place to put that, and I'll kind of give you a really rough idea of how we're going to do it for this. So introduction, procedure, observation, results, and finally the conclusion. When you got done going through those 3 simple procedures, or going through the procedure and your 3 simple rules, did you win the game? That's what you set out to prove. And so you're going to make that statement at the end that following these simple rules, following these three simple rules led to the winning of the Sudoku game, or led to not winning the Sudoku game, whatever actually happened. So the introduction and the conclusion have to match as well. If you say you're going to try to prove this, at the end you need to talk about whether you actually proved it or not. Now, drug companies do this all the time with drug trials. They think that this combination of whatever is going to cure this ailment. And so they go through these big trials, they set them all up to prove that their drug was the one that actually created this results of healing, and they try to eliminate everything else, and then they get to the end, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And that's what they have to put. You don't want to keep making a drug and sell it to people that doesn't actually do anything. So the introduction is going to be a pretty good idea of, this is what ought to happen. This is what I think is going to happen. Procedure is going to set it up. And I think if we do these things, we'll get those results. We'll go through the lab, do the whole thing, and then we'll do the conclusion. But the introduction and the conclusion have to be about the same topic. You can't start off saying that you're going to win the game of Sudoku with these simple moves and then get to the end and talk about crossword puzzles. So, introduction and the conclusion are going to be about the same exact topic. Now, in labs, we are not doing creative writing. So it's okay to be boring, and it's okay to be very specific and to the point. This isn't designed to be a great read. What it's designed to do is prove something. So most of the time we've got a problem we're wanting to solve. So we get in and we talk about how to solve that problem exactly. All right. So let's talk about Sudoku. Sudoku is a number puzzle. And let me paste this up here. Oops. Sudoku is a number puzzle. And I'm going to pop this down here. And the game of Sudoku is played by filling in the numbers in the open blanks. The rules are fairly simple. There can only be one of each number in the rows, one of each number in the columns, and one of each number in the quadrant. For instance, we can't have a 2 in the column because there's already a 2 in this column. And we can't have a 3 in this row because there's already a 3 in the row. If I'm looking at this blank space right here, we can't have a 1 here because there's already a 1 in the quadrant. Now, most of the time the Sudoku puzzles are a little larger than this one, make them a little bit more difficult. But it doesn't really matter. We're going to start off with this smaller one, and this will allow us to work through it in a fairly short amount of time. All right, so that's the game. Let's talk about it a little bit. So the introduction is going to be something similar to this. In this lab, it will be shown that the game of Sudoku can be won by following 3 simple rules. So that is a very shortened introduction. Our procedure, and I've got one down here. All right, here's how we're going to play. So starting in the top left square, see if there's a number there already. All right, there is no number there. It said if there was, move one square right until a blank square can be found. But for right now, we're good. Determine the numbers in the row that can be eliminated. Well, we can eliminate a 3 because that's in the same row. So I'm going to write that here. Determine the numbers in the column that can be eliminated. We can eliminate 2 and 3. I don't need to put the 3 again. So go again. And determine what numbers in the quadrant can be eliminated. Well, we've got the same 2 numbers, 2 and 3. If all the numbers but 1 can be eliminated, write the number in the square and proceed to the next square. All right, we can't. If there are 2 or more numbers that haven't been eliminated, make sure they're recorded. And we haven't. So here is one set of data. This is the numbers we can eliminate. And this is the numbers that we can use. So right now, this square can have a 1 or a 4. All right. Move the next square and repeat from number 1. All right, we're going to move over 1, and there's already a number in it, so we don't have to do anything there. Move 1 square right. So we're going to move here. All right, same procedure. What can we eliminate in the row? Well, we can eliminate the 3. What can we eliminate in the column? We can eliminate a 1. Oops, I'm in the wrong place. 1 and 3. So there are 2 possibilities that this could be. It could be a 2, right, and a 4. All right, we'll move 1 more space to the right. And we've got a 3. That we've eliminated, right? And a 1 and a 4. All right, so we've eliminated 3 of them. So there's only 1 possibility that could be in here, and that's the 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write it in. All right, if you get to the end of the row, start at the left on the next row. If you get to the bottom right, start back at the top left. So we'll drop down 1. This is already taken care of. So now we can go to this square, and we are going to eliminate a 2 and a 1 in the row. That's a 1 and a 2. And we eliminate a 3 from the column. And so there's only 1 possibility. This has to be a 4 because we eliminated 3. So I can put a 4 there. I put that in the wrong place. We move over 1 and we try it again. Well, taking a look at the rows, we've already eliminated 3 possibilities, 1, 2, and 4. There's only 1 thing to be there, that would be the 3. And the 1 is already in there. We drop down and we're just going to move across. Once we get to the bottom down here, we're going to start back over at the top. And you will find that probably the second time through, we can finish our puzzle. So that's what the lab's going to be. So the part that you're going to do is put in the introduction. I said the very simple introduction would be, millions of people play Sudoku. You can go out and look and see some information about this. And it will be shown that Sudoku can be won by following 3 simple rules. Now, I want to hit on this real quick. Don't use the pronouns I, me, we, they. No personal pronouns. So we don't use those when we do these studies. I've given you a procedure to work with. And then the observation. What did you notice while you were following the procedure? You're going to have a results section. And all of this information is going to be in the results section. So my suggestion is keep it someplace where you don't have to duplicate the information. You can put it in an Excel spreadsheet and just use that spreadsheet as you go across. The idea of the results section is that someone else can come back through and check your data and make sure that, yes, you did it exactly the way you said you were going to, and yes, you actually did win. All right. So finally, conclusion. If you won, you're going to put something very similar to what you had in the introduction. In this lab, it was shown that Sudoku can be won by following 3 simple rules. I said it doesn't have to be really wordy. It just has to be true and accurate. All right, so there you have it. A method of doing a lab that will make sure that you learn something while also making sure that the instructor is happy with the lab. If you follow the rules that we talked about in here, you will come away with a lab that's very sound and your instructor is going to be happy with. In this case, of course, it's going to be me. And I'm going to be a little bit picky on the first few. I don't grade very hard, but I will try to give you a lot of feedback on what was good and what wasn't good so that we get a little bit later in the class. You are giving me labs exactly the way I want them. So I realize it's going to take a little bit when we first get started to figure out exactly what I want from every other instructor. And I will be somewhat picky in telling you what those are. And I expect you to fix those on later labs. So here's a couple of ones I've got in the past. I just want to show you kind of what they might look like. Here we got introduction, our procedure, observation, results, conclusion. Here's all of our data. This isn't necessarily exactly the form I'd like it in. I always like it when the results, all the information are actually underneath the results heading. Of course, these were first passes for students last year, so they're not exactly like I'd like. Here is another one. And you can see the introduction, the procedure, observation, results, conclusion. And the one thing I don't like about this one is it's laid out kind of wide. So what happens when you go to print this out? Let's go in here and go to print to PDF. It pops up a little bit like this, and rather than being one nice linear lab, we've got half a page that's blank, and we've got a wide page up at the top. I would rather this whole section be underneath here. All right, so hopefully you find that helpful as well. So print these to PDF, and then you're going to submit them in on Canvas. All right, so the first one is Sudoku. It's a logic game. Digital is all about logic, and it's going to give you an opportunity to actually play with the lab format a little bit. And if you've never played Sudoku, you'll get a chance to play with that. All right, go ahead and give it a try, and I look forward to seeing that by Sunday night. Have a great day. All right, guys, that's a wrap.